One of the most influential designers of that time was undoubtedly Susie Cooper, whose dinnerware and teaware patterns have established her as a great name in 20th century design. Well, with me now is Bryn Youds, who's president of the Susie Cooper Collectors Group, and a lot of the stuff you've brought is your own collection, isn't it, over the years?
That's right, yes, it is.
Really lovely stuff and very varied. How did she actually start? She started as a painter.
That's right. She began actually being paid by the hour by A.E. Gray & Co. in Stoke-on-Trent, and she very quickly became their resident designer.
Painting works like, have we got any of them here?
Like this particular one is a lustre design from about 1925, and that was kind of typical of the Gray's output at the time.
I love
that
the
and very
colours.
brightly coloured painted work as well.
She seems to have moved away from the really bright colours and the elaborate stuff when she set up on her own.
That's right. She was very frustrated by the work at Gray's because she just wasn't happy ultimately with the effect, and she moved on to works like these with her own company in 1929.
Which are highly individual, aren't they? Was there anything like that around at the time?
That's right. No, she actually took the market by surprise, and people were very surprised to see what kind of design she was coming out with. And they really did make a mark, things like this. You can spot this particular design by her triangular back stamp, the mark there.
And presumably there aren't many of those around then? That's quite...
No, these early works are particularly rare because the factory was closed after a few weeks before she then moved on and really established herself in the international kind of pottery industry.
Right. So all these works, these lovely things here, are all her earlier ones? That's
right. There's a lustre design again, but this is from her own production into about 1931, 32, something like that.
That is beautiful, that, isn't it?
Yeah, probably around about £100 for such an unusual piece, really. Very, very technically accomplished, the painting that went into that. And her girls were very, very highly skilled.
So all this was, she was working in the early 20s doing these things. Then she moved on. She seemed to completely change her style.
Well, I mean, she's got a career over 70 years, so that she was keeping well ahead of the time in many cases, producing for Wedgwood things like this with kind of classical simplicity, and then going to the kind of the pop art end of things for the late 60s with this harlequinade design there.
And how can you tell her work? What marks are there too?
We've seen the triangular back stamp. There's other marks. For example, her most famous probably is the leaping deer back stamp, which is became characteristic of Susie Cooper design, the elegance with utility and the dynamism and grace of the deer used in the back stamp.
So are those still very collectible now? Are they around and are they very valuable?
They are indeed. Their prices will range from just a few pounds actually for the more common designs through to the very, very expensive one-off items in many cases. The early works, the cheese wedges here and things like that are very valuable. And recently the Japanese have begun to avidly collect these lithograph designs like this.
You met her very recently, just before she died 2 years ago. What was she like?
I was working with her while I was researching my book, and she was just absolutely terrific, an amazing character, absolutely full of energy. All
shows in her work too. Bryn, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Thanks. Well, now it's competition time, and as usual you could win an all-expenses-paid luxury weekend break for two at a Johansson